Welcome, everyone. I'm Christa Hurchalla here with Delegate Solutions, and we are a premium virtual assistance firm. Today on Facebook Live, I have the pleasure of speaking with our friend Marcia O'Connor. Welcome, Marcia.
Thanks, Krista. Thanks for inviting me. This is great.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to chat with you for a few minutes. So Marcia is the founder of the O'Connor Group, which is a leading provider of human resources and talent acquisition solutions for the life sciences, professional services, and manufacturing sectors. And they recently celebrated their 12th anniversary. Congratulations on that. We're about the same age as well at Delegate Solutions. Marcia has over 20 years of experience in all aspects of talent acquisition, professional search, and human resource outsourcing. She is a proud Philly EO board member and a Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business alumni. And as a side note, at Delegate Solutions, we are also a client of Marcia's, a client of the O'Connor Group, and they do amazing work. And we're excited today to talk about a very timely topic for a lot of businesses, really looking at what companies need to know right now to reopen their business, not only safely, but successfully. And I know this is certainly an area of expertise for you, Marcia. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Krista.
Great. Well, let's jump in because I know we have a few questions that I definitely want to get to. So as I mentioned, a lot of businesses have returned to their physical locations, but for those that are sort of on the fence about it or a little unsure, what are the key things that their leaders and their HR professionals should be thinking about?
Well, to be honest with you, there's a few things about getting back into the world and all too. Obviously, safety is a big one and all too. People are worried about, going back in. I can tell you about 15% of our clients are very insistent about having people in their seats and all too. I would say caution behind all that, because what's happening is you're putting a fear out there and a concern. And unfortunately, we're seeing this backfire on them right now too. A lot of them haven't done, I say just do a quick survey. We surveyed, we had 4 questions in our survey, sent it out even to our own team. And we realized, we thought that because I had a more junior population that there was no issues. And we found out that actually only 2 people felt completely comfortable going into the office. And they were 2 of my more senior people, ironically enough, not my junior. My junior probably had the most anxiety. So
Right.
It's thinking that you think you know the answers, but you really don't right now. It's all a learning experience. And it's really just getting ourselves a plan of action. So make sure you do have like a COVID, I call it a COVID blueprint, before you go back into the office and all too, because something does happen. And if by chance you do get sued, that's the first place they're going to look at is your blueprint as to, well, what did you basically communicate with your team? And did you have hygiene stations? Did you have places to wash their hands? Did you have wipes? Did you have masks? They're going to ask all this kind of questions. All that stuff has to be thought out before you send people back. But as you already know, people are learning that right now because a lot of people have gone back.
Yes.
And some it's working for, and some it's not. And some people are still really afraid of speaking up because they're afraid of being let go because unemployment is so high. So just be cautious of that too, because there's all these different fears and anxieties that are going on behind the scenes. And a lot of these people are they're very afraid to speak up.
Yeah, and I think we could probably have a chat on a whole nother topic, which is around sort of those mental health issues that employees are having. Again, sort of behind the scenes, it may not be out there for the employer to see, but it's happening. And it's, as you said, you might think someone's reacting in one way to this, but it could be completely the opposite. And so we just don't know, which makes it even more challenging. So one of the things, I know we were talking a little bit about safety too, temperature checks obviously come into play with that. So that's a really hot topic, and just envisioning how that's even going to work in a business. A lot of question marks there. So, in your expertise, what's the protocol and what are businesses doing? What are you recommending?
I think it really depends upon the company and all too. So the temperature checks are good for one thing, for obviously a higher temperature, right? And I know one client of mine in Delaware, what they're doing is they drive right up. Somebody is there as a checker, and if they pass, you can park. If you don't pass, you turn around and go home. And they're trying to make it as secretive as possible, obviously for like HIPAA compliance and all too. But to be honest with you, if you haven't noticed the new symptoms of COVID and all too, a lot of them don't have a fever. So
Right.
I think the biggest concern is like, okay, you did the temperature check, but this person still had COVID, and you're trying to cover all your bases. So it's really coming down to how you feeling And unfortunately, the newest version right now of COVID going out that's really hitting a lot of the younger generation, they don't even know they have it. So they're asymptomatic and they're positive testing. So honestly, they're doing the best they can right now as HR leaders. There's actually new apps that you can actually check in every day. Like Paylocity has an app that you can check in every day, and you could say, here's my temperature, I feel fine today, boom, 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 I'm coming in. There's another one I saw out there where it's like, you've approved, and now you get this like QBR code, and then you can't get into the complex without showing that QBR code on your phone. So they're coming up with all these new ways of doing it. But I gotta tell you that the COVID testing is just going to be exploding. We have another new client, and honestly, they're setting up a new testing center. They expect to do 750,000 tests a day. And
Unreal.
that's just one place, out here. So that's going to be the normal right now, is basically having these COVID tests for a while.
Unreal. That's an astounding number, Marcia. And that's just one story of one company.
Yep.
So what are some of the creative ways that you can schedule employees and sort of arrange the seating to maintain social distancing, which we know, hand washing, social distancing, masks, there are some things that we know work to help sort of stem the tide here. So what are your comments on that?
I think right now, if you do have a commercial space, to definitely work with your commercial broker. A lot of them have really good plans in place already of how to do that and what to do. And they have deals with the plexiglass players and all too to get that moving. In regards to, they're changing the bathrooms, they're changing the elevators, they're changing where you walk. I have one client that has two offices, one in New York and one in Philadelphia. And he said, we're a professional services firm. Typically, we like everybody together in the office. But we did an analysis, took about 2.5 hours to get into the office just for Philly. So they decided just, hey, listen, we're all going to work from home. It's just not going to be conducive for us to spend basically one of my top players to be 5 hours trying to get into the office a day.
Crazy.
So they're really rearranging on that. But I would definitely reach out to your commercial brokers. They really have some really good plans in place. And the best one I've seen was actually Turner Construction in the Pittsburgh office. Had a really good layout of how they're going to have like group A 1 week and group B the second week. And then what they were doing is actually having like where they were going to sit, how the bathrooms were set up, where the hygiene stations were, or the sanitation stations, I guess you could say. And it was unbelievable. It was well done, well written and all too. But, you can only do so much. And I don't know if you know too, but one of the groups out there, the commercial guys, has a really good video called the 6-Foot Office. And it shows you what it looks like with a 6-foot like pad around people. It's a very different way of thinking, but that's the way I think people are going to be looking at work, which is why I think a lot more people are going to go remote more than they even have today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're already seeing that. And I think, there are a lot of positives with that. So really interesting stuff happening. And the creativity has been just amazing to see how companies have pivoted and made these creative changes so quickly. I have another question just in terms of providing maybe an overview of an exposure plan and how to communicate that to employees, because that's a challenge too, is to not only communicate it to employees, but to make sure that everyone understands and feels comfortable.
Yeah, so I've been on the circuit of talking about this left and right for the past 2 months, Christa.
I know.
And I gotta say, it's probably the 3 C's and a P. It's like your care, compassion, communication, and patience. And it's really that communication times that by 4. It's communicate, and then over communicate, and then over communicate. And you really want to make sure that plan of action is very simple and shows basically what people need to do, where to go, and have those resources at their fingertips. But have the Zooms with people, have the conversations, see their faces, watch their body language a little too. I do a huddle now. When this all first started, we did huddles every day for 15 minutes. And what I was doing, not only hearing about how they were doing, I was reading body language. I was reading about what's really going on behind the scenes, so they're afraid to tell me. And, I think it really helped keep us all together and keep that communication open. And now we do it twice a week because I feel as if like, okay, we got this. We have a plan of action. We know where we're going. We have a really good stream of clients coming in. We're okay. But it took a little while to get there. So really have those Zooms with your clients or your employees and really just read them as to what's going on and where they're going, because that's really important.
It is, and I think it also shows them how much their leadership is really empathizing with what's going on because they want information too for their own knowledge and their own families and their own business and all of that. So I think that's really important. So this is all such great information. I want to thank you for that, and also just wanted to ask Marcia, is there anything that you're currently working on? I know there is because you're always working on great things that you would like to share.
Yeah, I could tell you there's a few things. So we put together this CEO care call that we do every 2 weeks and all, and it's been great talking to CEOs, and it's almost like having them to talk about what's really keeping them up at night. And I gotta tell you, I think the fall is going to be an interesting time because I think the PPP, a lot of people have used the PPP already, and so they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with employees and hiring and all too. But half my business is recruiting, and we're all about almost full capacity for recruiting. So recruiting is still happening out there. I would say not to discourage, but I also think they're going to be an influx of new people because end of the month, that extra $600 unemployment runs out. So that is also going to be an influx of new people applying to jobs now too, because a lot of them were used to having that extra income and now they're going to go below that. So they're going to be like, I need to really get back to work now. So you're going to see a lot more of that going on. And I also think the fall will be interesting too. I'm hoping we don't keep shutting down all over the country. That just ruins morale in so many levels. I mean, we'll survive through this and all too, but it's just going to be week by week process right now. That's for sure. But we try to keep things out there as much as possible.
No, that's all great information. And I think too, I have to just give you a plug for your newsletter, the Connectors Who Care newsletter. Would love for you just to tell people how they can subscribe to that. I know you have a return to work toolkit, which I'm assuming people can access on your website, and your checklist as well.
Yes, they can access that on our website as a tocgrp.com. And we have our survival kit that we turned into a Thrive kit. And this last version that came out yesterday was all about basically mental health and wellness and all too, because we had that CEO care call and we found out about 40% increase in claims in regards to mental health in the past 3 months, which was
it.
crazy. So we're trying to say, don't forget to constantly practice and preach mental health and take vacation. This is the time to take vacation and all too. And I think people are so scared of doing that right now, but you really need to step away from the work. It's going to still be there, but it's such a good mental thing, not just for you, but your family sees it too. So you want to make sure that you step away.
And redefining what vacation is. I think we've all equated it, or many of us have, with going somewhere or a big trip, and we're not doing that anymore. So just shutting off, getting off the grid for even for a few days. I totally agree with you on that. And I think that's a great point. People need to do that. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I know so many companies and leaders and just individuals are going to be helped by this information. So thank you for joining us. And we will definitely be talking to you again soon.
Thanks for the invitation, Krista. Good to see you too. All right.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye.